Welcome in for another edition of Bet. I'm your host, Anita, and we've got a great show lined up for you. Of course, we're going to take you to Las Vegas. Tyler Fulghum is going to join us. Jordan Renan, who covers the Giants, and John Kine, who covers the Commanders, give us a sneak peek. I like to call it behind the curtain of the big matchup with those two NFC East teams coming up on this week's slate. And Eric Woodyard joins us about the Lions, one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL, going up against the Jets this week, one of the best defenses in the NFL. We'll have NBA plays for you, a little World Cup, but let's bring in Tyler. Let's take you to Las Vegas. How you doing, Tyler?
I'm ready to rock and roll, knocked out Daily Wager, and ready to hop on here with you, Anita, and bang out Bet.
Let's do it. As always, on Thursday night, we like to start off with the good word. Argentina in the World Cup to advance in penalty kicks. You can get that at plus 850. Tyler, what's your good word?
YOLO. You know, it's actually an acronym. You only live once. But YOLO. Everyone wants to see Messi in what is undoubtedly his final World Cup get a victory in this World Cup final. France, I think, is maybe the best team in the entire world. They're legit. Superstars up and down. They're starting 11, but plus 850 for the sentimental team we want to win because of Messi and his greatness to just win in PKs, which, let's be honest, in soccer happens often that we go to penalty kicks. So, YOLO, why not? Plus 850, fire on that bet.
So I'm with you. My word is sure. Sure, as in, why not? Just like you just said, right? This World Cup has been so unpredictable. I don't know about you, but I've lost my behind in gambling this damn thing. Anything can happen here, that's for sure. Both these teams are good. They score at least 2 goals. Each team has scored at least 2 goals per match. So again, sure, why not? Yeah, and at plus 850, I'll lay it. Who knows what's going to happen here? Here we go. Number 2, Chargers plus 145 to miss the playoffs. Now, little preface here. I actually picked the Chargers and the Eagles as my Super Bowl matchup. Was I way off? But nonetheless, Chargers plus 145 to miss the playoffs. What's your good word, Tyler?
You know, your Eagles pick is looking good, and Chargers is not crazy. They got to get hot here at the right time. I'm going to use the word Costanza. If you're a fan of the sitcom Seinfeld, there's that episode where George tries to maximize his life by doing everything the opposite that he would normally do. Instead of, whatever, it was the tuna sandwich, chicken salad on rye or whatever. And we know the Chargers have made a habit of letting us down in December and finding crazy ways to get injured, lose games, flame out in the postseason. So this is begging you to take the Chargers with that history at plus 145 to miss the playoffs. Pull a Costanza. Bet on Justin Herbert and the Chargers to finally break through and make the postseason. And if they do, they will be a very dangerous team because of Justin Herbert. We'll see what the defense with Brandon Staley becomes, but man, they played really well. Down a bunch of players against Miami last week, so there's a little glimmer of hope. I think they ultimately do qualify for the playoffs. They got 4 games left, and I think they're going to be favored in at least 3, if not all 4 of them. It's a pretty easy schedule down the stretch. Finally, that offense is getting healthy around Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler. So Costanza, do the opposite of what the Chargers have been encouraging you or indicating you should do in recent years. Bet on them to make the playoffs.
So my good word is forecast, as in it's looking grim, as in the weather here in New York City the next 2 days. Listen, granted, now here's what's playing in your favor, okay? And that is they have the second easiest schedule remaining of all teams in the NFL. But 50%, I was obviously doing a deep dive on this topic earlier today. 50% probability that only Kansas City comes out of this division and makes it into the postseason. I think the Jags potentially could make it in over the Chargers, and I think they've got a really rough matchup this coming week against Tennessee. As we know, they're one of the worst teams against the run. Opponents' running backs are averaging 5.52 yards per carry against them. I think they're going to have a hard time holding down Derrick Henry. So forecast for me is grim. All right, number 3, San Francisco. First drive tonight ends in a touchdown. And Tyler, you can get that at plus 305. What's your good word?
The good word is ground, as in ground and pound. CMC ground mailing. We know the 49ers with Christian McCaffrey now and Kyle Shanahan, opening up his big brain and designing beautiful run schemes. Trent Williams at left tackle. This is one of the most deadly, most dynamic running schemes, rushing offenses in the entire National Football League. Anita, the Seattle Seahawks are pretty much the worst run defense in the National Football League. They're allowing more than 160 rushing yards per game. That's 31st. Only the Texans are worse. But Seattle is actually less efficient on a play-by-play perspective than the Houston Texans. They allowed Carolina to rush for more than 200 yards last week. Josh Jacobs hit him up for more than 200 yards in that game winner in OT himself. Even my Rams and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, two teams that can't run the football against peewee teams, hit the Seattle Seahawks up for more than 160 rushing yards each. So ground is my word, because if the Niners find the end zone, boy, I bet it's on the ground with CMC.
My good word is plethora. God knows we use it a lot on Daily Wager, so I've used it as a word here on Bet Tonight. Plethora of talent this 49ers team has. Purdy's got so many weapons that he is working with of course, C-Mac, Kittle, Ayuk, I get it, Deebo Samuel's out, but have no fear. This is what this 49ers offense is about. And it's a lot of talent, a lot of guys that can get the ball in their hands and playmakers. So, and this is a really great matchup. As we know, we talked about it for the last hour on Daily Wager, that the Seattle Seahawks defense is no bueno. Nothing to be scared about. With that being said, Tyler, let's dive into this Thursday night matchup. Seattle and the 49ers. 49ers favored by 3.5, so Seattle gets the hook. The over-under here is 43. How are you playing it?
Yeah, I liked it earlier in the day last night when it was 3. Some money moved it to 3.5, and that, of course, is giving a little more value to the Seattle side. But I'm going to stay with it. I'm going to lay the points with the 49ers. I think they're the hottest team right now in the National Football League ever since getting Christian McCaffrey. I think Brock Purdy is just as good, if not better or more talented than Jimmy Garoppolo. The offense has been just as good. Even though it's not a great spot, short rest on the road in Seattle, first true road game for Purdy. I think CMC against that run defense. I think the San Francisco 49ers defense itself is awesome against Seattle. So with them having the NFC West division crown on the line and a playoff berth cemented if they win this game, I think they do. Hopefully it's by 4 points.
So I'm on the opposite side. I love Seattle and the fact that they're getting the hook here. They are home. This game, I hate to use the phrase, it means more to them, because obviously at this stage in the game, the 49ers playing for a spot to get into the postseason, but also in hopes that possibly hosting some of those playoff games. I get it. But the Seattle Seahawks need to win in order just to get into the big dance. So I think that this game does mean a little bit more to them in regard to pressing the issue. On top of that, even though they've lost the last few weeks, they're still averaging 24 points a game. They're getting to the red zone 42% of their offensive possessions. And they lost last week because Geno Smith threw those 2 interceptions. He has not done that this season. I think he was just missing Kenneth Walker, who, by the way, is going to be active, as I like to call it, active, and I expect him to be attractive tonight, in hoping, of course, that they'll create a lot of play action opportunity for Geno. So I do like Seattle getting the points. Let's talk about some of the props, and let's dive into just the quarterback prop for Purdy, because I think this is really interesting. This young Mr. Irrelevant rookie getting his first road start. Do you have a prop bet for Purdy?
Yeah, I'm going to play him under his pass attempts prop, and it makes sense based on how I'm handicapping this game. One, Purdy is banged up a little bit. He is active, he will play, but he got a little banged up oblique area in that win over the Bucks. So if Kyle Shanahan is smart, especially since Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance are hurt, don't drop Brock Purdy back a million times and put him in danger of being hurt. You don't need to as well because you have Christian McCaffrey against what I said might be the worst run defense in the entire NFL. Hand the ball off to Christian McCaffrey 20-25 times. Let him go over 124.5 rush plus receiving yards. We know how great he is in the passing game, and the matchup does not get any better on the ground. Let McCaffrey be your star. Let him handle the workload, and then you can rest him the final few weeks down the stretch before you gear back up for the playoffs. George Kittle with Deebo Samuel out against a Seattle defense that I think is 31st in fantasy points allowed to opposing tight ends. He should see a higher share of the targets. Got a great matchup. We know he's a beast. I'll play him over 41.5 receiving yards. And Kenneth Walker, I know he's back, Anita. Just not sure it's a great matchup against the San Francisco run defense. That's the opposite end of the Seattle Seahawks. They're one of the best, if not the best, in the NFL. So I think Walker will get his opportunities. I just don't think he'll be efficient with those opportunities. And if Seattle's playing from behind, that's not going to help him in terms of getting opportunities to run the rock. So I'm under as far as rushing yards with Walker.
All right, and starting with Purdy, I have him scoring a touchdown tonight. Why not? He scored one last week. Seattle, their defense, they've given up 18 rushing touchdowns so far this season, and they are bad against rushing mobile quarterbacks. Other prop bets I'm out there, McCaffrey over receiving yards and receptions is probably my favorite bet tonight. 30% target share, Seattle, 2 high safeties. So, I think Purdy and Kyle Shanahan's going to keep everything underneath. Give me George Kittle. He's on my shirt for a reason. Over receptions, over receiving yards, anytime touchdown. Seattle, 5th most passing yards to opposing tight ends, and they've given up 6 touchdowns to tight ends this season. Goodwin, over receiving yards. This has become a go-to for Geno Smith. He's hit that over 26 receiving yards in 6 of his last 7 games. And last but not least, DK Metcalf, anytime touchdown. He's got 4 touchdowns his last 6 games, 22 red zone targets. And San Francisco has given up 10 receiving touchdowns to opposing wide receivers this season. So a lot there for you to work with for tonight's Thursday night game from both Tyler and I. Let's turn our attention to what's going on in the World Cup. I do believe that they got it right. We've got 2 matchups. I don't know how exciting one is going to be on Saturday with Croatia going up against Morocco for 3rd and 4th place. But that's Saturday, but the championship is Sunday. So here's how you can play it. France to win in regulation at plus 180, Argentina at plus 175, and a draw at 2-1. Any plays here for you, Tyler?
Yeah, I know we talked in the good word about Argentina winning on PKs at plus 850. I just like the value on that. But if I was, trying to find, I think, the best bet in terms of an outcome without getting that ridiculous ROI, I think France now at plus 180 is really good value. I think a lot of money has flooded in on Messi and Argentina for the sentimental value. I think France is the better team. They have stars up and down that lineup. And I think if both of these squads play their A game, I think that's slightly better for France than it is for Argentina. I think the value's there with Les Bleus. So I will back France plus 180, the other red, white, and blue, as my favorite way to bet this World Cup final.
So, like I said, I've lost my butt betting the World Cup. So I'm going to go with the safest play, and that is, I think both these teams score, and you could get that at plus 105. Why? You've got 2 of the best players in this tournament going up against one another in Messi and Mbappe. And they both have 5 goals so far in this tournament, a lot of assists. Both these offenses are very electric, very aggressive. And like I said, in every match that they've played so far, both these teams have scored at least 2 goals. So I also like the over here, but I feel the safest play is not betting who wins, not betting who advances. Just both teams are going to score at plus 105. Too much firepower here. That's how I'm playing it. Let's turn our attention to the hardwood, the association, what's going on in the NBA. Good one between the Bucks and the Grizzlies tonight. Grizzlies favored by 2.5. The over-under is at 226.5. What's your play, Tyler?
I lean Bucks here. I know the Grizz have been awesome as a home favorite, but I do think the Bucks are the better team. Now, Drew Holiday's not going to play, but Desmond Bane has been out for the Grizzlies, so those two kind of neutralize one another. I think Giannis shows up in the spot. He knows the Grizz are the #1 seed right now, at least tied with the New Orleans Pelicans atop the Western Conference. I think Giannis shows up big and reminds the world that he is the best overall basketball player in the entire universe. He leads the Bucks to at least a cover, if not an outright win, as a 2.5-point dog.
See, I'm on the opposite side. I like the Grizzlies. I think they're way more athletic. They're one of the best teams in transition. And get this, the Bucks at home, 4th best offense in the NBA, on the road 30th. Ooh. Not playing as well offensively on the road as they are at home. So I'll lay the points with the Grizzlies. Okay. Game number 2, you've got the Pelicans going up against the Jazz. Pelicans and Zion, what a season he's having. Favored by 1.5. The over-under's at 232.5. How are you playing this bad boy?
Yeah, I think it's a bounce-back spot for the Pels. These two teams played in Utah a couple of nights ago. Utah got an easy victory, but the Pelicans shot the ball as poorly as they have in any game this season. I think they were 14% from downtown. So we're going to see some big-time, I think, positive regression for the Pelicans offense. They are the better team, and we're only laying 1.5. Even though Utah is a good home team, got a great home court advantage there, I think this is a great opportunity to get some value on the Pelicans in a bounce-back spot for Zion Williamson and the team that is tied with the Grizzlies, as I said, atop the Western Conference. I'm going to lay it with the Pels.
Yeah, lockstep, ditto, right with you. I'm going to lay it with the Pelicans. Also, I like Zion over 26.5 points. The Pelicans, by the way, I'm sure you know the stat. They missed 23 of 27 three-pointers the other night, the last time they went up against the Jazz. I don't see that happening again. I think Zion is just a force to be reckoned with, especially in the paint. I don't think they can stop him. Pelicans have the 3rd best defense in the NBA. The Jazz have the 5th worst. So I'm with you. Pelicans, also Zion over points. Last but not least, you've got the Suns going up against the Clippers. Suns favored by 5.5. The over-under's at 217. This line's been all over the place. I know while we were live on Daily Wager, the active-inactive list came out, and like
crazy.
Is anybody? Are you and I going to lace them up and play? I mean, pretty much everybody's out for this matchup. So how are you playing this, Tyler?
Yeah, no, I legally cannot play this game because the Clippers signed me to a 10-day contract, and I will be getting on a jet and flying to L.A. to suit up for the Clippers in this one. So I can't legally bet now that I'm an NBA player on an NBA game. I'm joking, of course. I'm going to play it under 217, I should say. Clippers games at home this season, Anita, they played 15 games at, I guess it's Crypto.com arena now. 13 of those 15 games have gone under the total. 13 of 15 under at home for the Clippers. That's the trend I'm going to lean into, knowing that these teams are going to look way different than what they are going to have most nights out on the floor because of all the inactives. So under 217 is my play here. Especially with me shooting the basketball and trying to contribute points. My jump shot is broke, so definitely bet the under with me out there chucking it.
Before all the inactives, I was leaning towards the Clippers at -1.5, and I like Paul George over par. But now my only play here is Bridges over points at 17.5. I mean, he's pretty much the only guy I think it's going to be scoring for the Suns, of course, except you. So I don't know. When your point total comes out, Tyler, maybe I'll play the over there as well. You have a great night. Enjoy watching the Thursday night game, my friend.
All right, will do, Anita.
All right, we say goodbye to Tyler, and we go to Jordan Renan in my neck of the woods. He does a phenomenal job covering the Giants, as always. And Jordan, let's talk about Saquon Barkley, because this is just 20 snaps in his last game against the Eagles, but we know he's the straw that stirs the drink. He is the elixir to the success offensively for the Giants. So what's the status with him so far as we head into arguably the most important game for the Giants this season?
Yeah, when I spoke to Saquon today and I asked him how he felt, he started with way better. And you know how you know he's doing way better? He's a full participant in practice this week so far. He's not even on the injury report. So I don't think there's any questions about Saquon Barkley really physically coming into this week. I asked Coach Brian Daboll about that workload, if he goes back to the full workload. He said no restrictions. So you think about Saquon, you're talking about a guy who played 83% of the Giants' offensive snaps this season. That's a gigantic number, Anita. 83%, way more than any running back in the NFL. This is their biggest game of the year. I think you're going to see him back into that kind of workload because the Giants, they won't win if they don't have a healthy Saquon Barkley. 70 yards or more this year, they're 7-1. Look at their record otherwise. So every time he went under 70 yards, it hasn't gone well. And last week, I thought that number was actually low. The Giants, I thought was surprised they were only 7-point underdogs to the Eagles. And then without Saquon, that number should have been easily in the double digits if you knew that Saquon wasn't 100%. But that 20 snaps you mentioned, in part was because they were getting blown out. So middle of the third quarter, they just shut him down. So this week, I wouldn't expect that. I'd expect full Saquon.
So, Jordan, last time you were on Bet was Thanksgiving week, and I posed the question. I said, by chance, could the Giants not win another game all season? And sure enough, they have lost 2 straight. We know how important this game is against Washington, where their playoff hopes. What's the mindset? What's going on? What's going on inside that locker room, knowing this team knows that this is a must-win this week?
I know, Anita, you've been all over this. They might not win again this year. How did I know there was going to be a tie, though, Anita? A tie. Come on. I can't predict a tie. When you talk about Brian Daboll, I've been actually very intrigued by the approach that he's taken this week, because what he's tried to do is sort of minimize the game. He's really said that it's not a playoff game, right? That this is just another game. And in a way, I kind of understand it, because think about it. Seattle, which is an underdog today, let's say they lose to San Francisco, right? Washington Giants loser, still in the playoff spot in the NFC, whichever one of them loses. So I kind of understand it. And you talk to players and they say, you know, Brian Daboll, his approach the whole season, it's been take it one day at a time, work on the details, focus on the details, make sure you're taking care of the little things. That's how we're winning the games. We're doing all the right things during the week. We're concentrating on the task at hand. Cliche for sure, you know, blah, 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 you know, filling it up, Bill Belichick style, you know, win the day kind of thing. Worried about on to Cincinnati, same thing. He is a Brian Daboll is a Bill Belichick guy. So it worked for them in New England. Brian Daboll's trying that same thing in New York. I think he's trying to ease the pressure off these Giants players because most of them, really almost all of them, have not been in this kind of spot before, Anita.
It's going to be really a good game to watch. Jordan, thank you so much. Enjoy the game. We take you from New York to our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. John Keim joins us. He covers the Commanders. John, so very interesting, right? Like, Washington actually has bode well here in the fact that 2 weeks ago they faced the Giants. It was a tie, and then they got a bye week, and then now they get to host the Giants. This schedule suits them extremely well. What has this team had to say about how the schedule has played out and how they're preparing for this huge matchup?
Anita, a couple weeks ago, before that first game, what the players and coaches would say is that playing the same team over a 3-week span was a big benefit because the team they're playing, the Giants, of course, had to play someone else in between. This week, they're kind of singing a different tune. Keep in mind, these teams play twice a year, so as defensive coordinator Jack Del Rio said, there are no secrets here. Now, I was talking to one of the offensive players earlier this week about things they could do different this game, different routes they could run, different offensive concepts they could use, things that they feel could be successful. However, the player was kind of getting excited about them, and then he stopped and said, but this game is fresh in their minds too, so they know what Washington is going to try and adapt to after the first game. But perhaps the biggest benefit here, as Coach Ron Rivera said, is they had the bye week to get healthy. There are probably 4 or 5 starters who are going to be able to play Sunday that probably wouldn't have played had they had a game last week. So this gives them a chance to be rested, healthy, for a critical stretch run.
So this Commanders team, they've won 4 of their last 6. What has been the secret sauce? What has turned it around for them?
Well, listen, you can start with quarterback Taylor Heinicke. He's brought some energy, some swag to the field. Players will talk about Coach Ron Rivera's even-keeled demeanor. When they were 1-4, he was the same as when they are 7-5-1. But I really think a lot of it starts with the commitment to the run game, and that's rookie Brian Robinson, who continues to ascend. Ron Rivera said he's been running more decisively with more power and more pop to the outside over the last 2 games, more than 205 yards rushing, over 5.1 yards per carry. In turn, that's allowed Washington to control the ball. They are the NFL's best team at controlling time of possession. Then that helps the defense, which now is top 3 in yards and points allowed. And I asked cornerback Kendall Fuller about Brian Robinson's power runs and if that gets them excited on the sidelines. He said, yes, it does, but more than anything, it keeps them fresh.
John, thank you so much. Appreciate your insight. Both you and Jordan really optimistic about this matchup. I think it's going to be really close. I'm going to take the Giants in the points, but again, definitely a must-watch game on this week's slate. Appreciate your time. We go from that matchup to the Lions, and this is another can't-miss game, right? Eric Woodyard is joining us. He covers the Detroit Lions, one of the best, most explosive offenses as of late, going up against one of the best defenses in the Jets this week. So the Lions, they're a very interesting story, right? They start off 1-6. Now they've gone 5-1. They've beaten 2 teams that are currently in the playoffs ahead of them. So, what's the excitement level right now building around this team as they try to win in advance, and better their playoff chances?
It's Detroit versus everybody. They're literally locked in right now. They're dialed in. The city is going crazy. You're looking at a franchise here that haven't been to the playoffs since 2016. Haven't won a playoff game since 1991 when Barry Sanders was playing. So to even be in the contention, to even be mentioned, to have a possibility to have a small percentage of reaching the playoffs at all, the excitement level is through the roof. I asked Amon-Ra St. Brown, the receiver, I said, hey, what's going on? Why are you guys so locked in and dialed in? And he said they've taken on the identity of their head coach, Dan Campbell. They said he's never wavered, which is went on, that's trickled down to the team. And guys are just taking on the identity. They're playing hard. They're confident. They feel like they can win out. And Jared Goff is playing some of the best ball of his career. He just said last week that he feel like he was, in fact, playing the best ball of his career, even better than the Super Bowl season. So I think you have a very confident group with Dan Campbell at the top, Jared Goff playing good, and as you mentioned, a very explosive offense. Once the defense, stays consistent, they've been playing a lot better after that 1-6 start. So I think the excitement level is literally through the roof here in Detroit.
California kid Goff coming to New York City, taking on the Jets in some cold, bitter weather. You've got 538 prediction that if the Lions beat the Jets this week, their probability of making it to the postseason jumps up to 90%. So with that being said, what are the Lions most concerned about with this matchup against the Jets?
I think, the Jets have a heck of a defense. I mean, you look at Sauce and some of the guys, they know what they're going against, but this offense is really, really, they're ready to go. So I don't think it's a lot of concern necessarily. I think it's just they feel like if they play their best football right now, nobody in the league can get them. They're getting hot at just the right time. Guys are coming back from injuries. You look at the rookie Jamison Williams. He scored a touchdown on his first career reception, gave the ball to his father last week. I mean, it's just so much excitement. I think they're really a confident, hungry group that feels like, if everything goes right, who and the remaining of the schedule, they can get it done for sure.
My dogs are even excited for the game. So John, we so appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us here on Bet.
Thank you.
As always, we like to end the show with Before I Let You Go. Let's talk about some NFL MVP odds. Now, no surprise, Jalen Hurts has been unbelievable. He's favored to win the MVP right now at -175, coming off another tremendous performance against the Giants. 294 total yards, 3 touchdowns. Since week 8, he's tossed 20 touchdowns, or has scored 20 touchdowns, and only 1 interception. And this week, he's got a very favorable matchup against the Bears. Coming in second right now in regard to odds is Patrick Mahomes, right? Like over 4,000 passing yards, 33 passing touchdowns. The dude's a beast this week. Very favorable matchup against the Texans. Where are you going to find your value is with Joe Burrow, and you could get him at 7-1. Now follow me here. The Bengals, they're on a 5-game winning streak, and they just for the first time beat the Browns last week. They beat Kansas City in week 13. And Burrow had the second best completion percentage, over 81%, tossed 239 yards, 2 touchdowns. On the season so far, he's almost at 3,700 passing yards, 234 rushing yards, 32 total touchdowns. He's first in completion percentage this season, yards per attempt, and also keep in mind, he's been pressured more than Hurts and Mahomes. Now, here's where the kicker comes in. His schedule, one of the toughest remaining in the NFL. At the Bucs, at the Patriots, against the Bills, against the Ravens. Some really hard defenses. If Burrow and this Cincinnati Bengals offense can continue to perform like they do, watch out. Burrow 7-1 to win the MVP, I think is a sneaky good bet. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching Bet. Enjoy the game tonight. Good luck with all your wagers.